Hello and welcome to our special broadcast and coverage in honor of the late President Muhammadu Buhari, who passed on about 48 hours ago and is suspected to be buried today in Daura in Katsina State. The entire nation is in mourning, and in this last hour, we journey with him as he goes finally beyond. And I'm here with my colleagues. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
Yes, indeed. It's Tuesday, July the 15th, a day declared a public holiday in honor of late former President Muhammadu Buhari. And it seems that the sun rises gradually over grey-blue sky on a nation mourning, albeit with mixed emotion. And we continue to look at the situation of things as it unfolds. Welcome to the Morning Brief. Well, this special coverage dedicated to late President Muhammadu Buhari. I am Bukola Koka.
And the flags are still flying at a half-mast across the country, 7 days of mourning. Welcome to this special coverage. I'm Kayode Okikulu. From what we know, his body is meant to leave the UK at 6 a.m. Today, pending the completion of all paperwork. And Channels Television is live both in the UK, here in Nigeria, in Daura is home, and of course, the venue of the final burial. Welcome.
It's going to be an all-day conversation, literally from now till at about 4 p.m. Nigerian time, when we'll have this special live coverage. But for this first segment, we're having 4 hours of having to chat with a lot of persons and touching down on Daura to follow up on exactly what is going on, preparations, conversations, the mood of Daura, as well as the mood of the nation at large. So we'll be joined by politicians, academics, people who served in the military, and just a potpourri of persons who know him by reputation or knew him personally as he lives his life. 82 years he died, Muhammadu Buhari. So it's going to be a special conversation that you and I will be part of today as we bid him farewell. Guys, your memories of Buhari.
Indeed, quite a lot to unpack, Jeffrey. We recall the life and times of the former president. We recall, some of those statements by which we remember him, during his inauguration. I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody. Remarks that sent shockwaves across the nation, and for which many, continue to reflect on and try to understand him. And indeed, the president was sometimes seen as aloof. Perhaps, that's a fallout of that statement. Sometimes the president was indeed seen as, a man, of integrity, by which, you could commit, anything that you could for those who knew him personally, and he would remain true to, what you committed to him. A man also seen as one of integrity, that defined his administrations from the time he ruled Nigeria as a military head of state in 1983 to 1985, and indeed, during his second stint at the presidency from 2015 to 2023. It's more like, an elephant. Whatever side you touch, it's a different experience, for those who were political associates and for Nigerians who were under, his rulership. Kadi.
Indeed, and Nigerians are still trying to, of course, wrap their heads around what that legacy would be. Depends on who you ask. The former president left memories differently across board for the old, the young, the politicians, even his colleagues in the army. And these are things that I'll be walking you through on this special program today up until the time he is buried. According to the program released by the federal government, his body is expected to leave the UK by 6 a.m. Of course, we'll get confirmation for you because our crew is live in London. It's meant to arrive, will be received by President Bola Tinubu, his friend, his close ally politically and even personally as well. And then we expect that the burial according to Muslim or Islamic rites, would happen afterwards at 2 p.m. So stay with us right here on Channels Television. It's a full coverage, ensuring that all of the angles are covered, because this is a state burial, the very highest you can get in Nigeria.
Indeed, it's a state burial, and of course, Muhammadu Buhari impacted lives. It depends on which part of the life he impacted. Some were not excited, some are super supportive. But the most important thing is that, like we said yesterday, a man is dead, a wife has lost her husband, children have lost their father, grandchildren have lost their grandfather. So on a day like this, as we X-ray is many years of public service, from the military to when he came in as head of state to the Fourth Republic, 4 attempts before he eventually was able to get elected and got re-elected in 2019. When he served Nigeria for 8 years, that jury is out on what he did right and what he did wrong. But today, we honor his memory and what he did for the country. But we're going to be bringing you some of the moments of the life of former President Muhammadu Buhari. We'll be right back.
Having just a few minutes ago sworn by the Holy Book, I intend to keep my oath and serve as President to all Nigerians. I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody. A few people have privately voiced fears that on coming back to office, I shall go after them. These fears are groundless. There will be no paying off old scores. The past is prologue. Daunting as the task may be, it is by no means insurmountable. There is now a national consensus that our chosen route to national development is democracy. To achieve our objectives, we must consciously work the democratic system. The federal executive under my watch will not seek to encroach on the duties and functions of the legislative and judicial arms of government. The law enforcing authorities will be charged to operate within the Constitution.
President Muhammadu Buhari there, when he made history as the first opposition candidate to win an election in Nigeria. And, you know, that was a historical moment and perhaps a testament to the stoicism of President Muhammadu Buhari. Recall that he had contested in 2003 and he lost, 2007 he lost, 2011 he lost, and in 2015, ahead of the 2015 election, that merger of political parties brought his dream to reality. And, you know, that's one of the things, at least if we go by some of the positives that we can ascribe to the name of the late former president, something that we should reflect on. And perhaps also his death now has left a huge vacuum that is both defining in our political history and, of course, as the nation looks ahead. There's so much more also to reflect on as far as his legacy is concerned in the military. And as Jeffrey has said earlier, we have lined up, of course, guests and, of course, those who had a close interface with the late former president during his military heydays, you know, to recall their personal moments with President Muhammadu Buhari. And so from now up until about 11 a.m., this special coverage will be dedicated to a lineup of activities in honor of the burial of former late President Muhammadu Buhari.
Oh, indeed. And let's walk you through some of the events that have played out in the past 24 hours. Things are moving really fast with this burial. So we've had former Ghanaian governor Nana Akufo-Addo visiting Vice President Kashim Shettima in London to pay tribute to the former president. Of course, the former president and former Nigeria's president had a lot of interface while Nigeria's former president was alive. We also have former President Goodluck Jonathan also visiting and signing the condolence register, and it speaks to just how politics should be practiced. Never mind that the late former president was one who won that election in 2015, which effectively marks the end of Goodluck Jonathan's administration. But there you see Goodluck Jonathan visiting the family, commiserating with them, and it was a very good moment. I think one that should be framed for politicians and Nigerians to see that this is how politics should indeed be practiced. But this is a man who lived a life, as we said, a very eventful life. So let's walk you through his journey, particularly as it affects leadership in Nigeria, his impact, and we'll come back for more.
And that I will preserve, protect.
President Muhammadu Buhari, at his inauguration as the 15th President of Nigeria on May the 29th, 2015, addressing the country, he voiced these iconic words.
I belong to everybody and I belong to nobody.
The bright colors of that day speak to a journey that started many years before. Born in Daura, Katsina State in 1942, where he schooled before joining the Nigerian army, he rose swiftly through the ranks, fighting in the Civil War and playing an active part in several coups that marked the life of the young country. He also served as governor of the northeastern state and later of Borno State. In late 1983, he took over as the military head of state from a civilian government, promising to rescue a nation drowning in corruption and economic chaos. His regime stood out for the war against indiscipline policy that was enforced across the country. He was, however, overthrown in 1985 by another coup led by Major General Ibrahim Babangida. The former head of state later served as chairman of the Petroleum Trust Fund, PTF. From 2003, he ran for the office of president 3 times, failing consistently. For the 2015 presidential elections, working with a coalition, his persistence paid off, and he became the first opposition candidate to defeat an incumbent president in Nigeria. He went on to serve for 8 years. His tenure was marked with challenges from insurgents, farmer-herder violence, and economic hardship. The tenure, however, stood out for its foreign policy and regional leadership, agricultural reforms, infrastructure development, and its anti-corruption drive.
Your legacy?
Well, I think my legacy is that I try to make sure that we conducted ourselves with integrity. That means we stopped all the stealings as much as the system can allow. We stopped with appropriation. And for Nigeria, that is very, very important. The expectation from Nigeria, I tell you, is a young population. The expectation is so high that we must make sure that the resources are managed properly.
President Buhari served till 2003, handing over to President Bola Tinubu. He remained relevant politically, receiving visitors and politicians in his residence in Daura, Katsina State. His last public engagement was when he received in Daura former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, former Kaduna State Governor Nasser El-Rufai, among others. President Muhammadu Buhari, the soldier who became a politician, the president, and a statesman. Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
Indeed, the soldier who became a politician and a statesman, Muhammadu Buhari, today is going to be buried at about 2 p.m. when his body arrives from London to Katsina State, and he will be laid to rest in Daura. So this is our continued coverage of that particular process. We'll call it Farewell Muhammadu Buhari. A couple of things that happened. As a matter of fact, former head of state himself, who was in power for just a year and handed over to a civilian government, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, was right there in the same hospital where former President Muhammadu Buhari was also being hospitalized for treatment, but unfortunately had passed. So he said when he heard it, he had to leave where he was to go see him. So let's take a listen to his remarks after that death.
Unfortunately, we were in the same hospital together, but I have been discharged. So when I heard the news of his passing away, I quickly went there to condole with the family and see what can be done in order to get him ready, to get the corpse ready to be taken home.
Talk to me about the man, your relationship with him, when you met him, your fond memories of him.
Well, my relationship with General Buhari went back to as far back as 1962. We joined the military. He was my senior, and during the unfortunate civil war, we were fighting in the same sector with him. General Buhari is a gentleman who is very quiet, but exceptionally honest. You can trust Buhari with anything on this earth, and he will not betray you. During his tenure as a military officer, you have seen how he has tried to fight corruption, and also he established war against indiscipline in order to make us Nigerians behave the way the civilized world behaves. He introduced the war against indiscipline, and Nigeria was cleaner and more respectful during that tenure. Unfortunately, we lost those values that he tried to inculcate in Nigerians. When he became the democratic president, again, he tried his best to make sure that he fights corruption. Unfortunately, most of the officers, some of the officers who served with him are found wanting. They didn't do as much as is expected of them. So may he rest in peace. Well, certainly his death has been a big blow to Nigeria. President Tinubu has asked the vice president to come so that he can escort the body. This shows you the magnitude that has befallen Nigeria. With the passing away of President Buhari, politics in Nigeria will certainly change. I hope for the better.
A moment of deep personal reflection there by former military head of state, General Abdulsalam Abubakar, who disclosed that he himself was at that hospital, for medical treatment, and he came out, healthy, but unfortunately, former President Muhammadu Buhari didn't come out to tell the same story. Himself, General Abdulsalam Abubakar, 83 years old, and he spoke about having known the former president, late Muhammadu Buhari, since 1962. Don't forget that for weeks prior to Sunday, when the nation, heard that shocking and sad news, there had been reports of late President Muhammadu Buhari's ill health, and in fact, There were reports that he had left Kaduna, one of his home bases, to Daura, his country home, from where he was taken to London for medical treatment. But the federal government has since constituted a committee, a burial committee, in honor of late former President Muhammadu Buhari. However, members of the Federal Executive Council that were supposed to meet today will no longer meet, and they have now all traveled to Daura to participate in activities lined up for the burial of the late former president. And the former Minister of Information gave up, disclosed the plans, for the burial of the late former president. Let's have that soundbite from the Minister of Information, Mr. Mohammed Idris.
The President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has directed that 25 members of the Federal Executive Council have been directed to proceed to Katsina immediately to participate in the full schedule of the burial arrangement and the third-day prayer of former President Muhammadu Buhari in Daura. The third-day prayer will come up on Wednesday, 16th of July, 2025, in his hometown in Daura. You are aware that there was an earlier announcement that the Federal Executive Council meeting will hold on Tuesday, tomorrow, 15th July, 2025. This has now been rescheduled for Friday, 18th July, 2025, after the third day prayer. And this is to, of course, to give room to members of the Federal Executive Council and other government officials who will travel to Katsina to participate in that burial arrangement. The President has declared tomorrow, Tuesday, as public holiday. So while you have 7 days of national mourning, tomorrow, Tuesday, is work-free day across Nigeria.
That's the Minister of Information detailing, the program for that burial. What we'll be doing this morning is walking you through his journey, and we're going back to the 80s, his time in the military. We're joined on the program this morning by Colonel RSB Bello Fadile, joins us from the United States virtually this morning. Colonel, you're welcome to the special coverage. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. You've written, you've talked about your interface with late General Muhammadu Buhari, but just for a lot of people who may have missed it, and for the benefit of this solemn moment, what would be your fondest memories? I know it was in the military. A lot of times these memories are not fond, but you had memories, interface with General Muhammadu Buhari. What will those be for you as the nation mourns him and, of course, bids farewell to the man?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me in. As the nation mourns the personal of General Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. Like my father who said, indeed to Allah we belong, and to Allah we shall return. He has finished his task here on earth and passed on to the river beyond, where there is no pain or sorrow. Like you remember Jim Reeves' song, across the river there is no more pain, no more sorrow.
Indeed. So walk us through. You wrote about an experience you had with him in 1981 when he was GOC, I believe the infantry division in Ibadan, your state capital. Can you tell us what kind of man he was, particularly in the military, his image, how he was perceived, how he got the job done, the whole gamut, Colonel?
Yeah, he's a soldier, if you ask me, a disciplinarian of the highest order. That is it. Follow the rule. Go by the book. No corner, no cutting, no cutting of corner. Soldier. Very strict disciplinarian. That's it. Short.
Interesting, and the late former president was in the armed forces, an institution that shaped Nigeria's political history and development. Talk to us about his role during the eras of coups and how his own contributions shaped Nigeria's political development.
Yeah, very simple. You remember he's chief of staff and famous war against indiscipline that instilled orderly way of doing things during the period. That is it. War against indiscipline is the hallmark. Just like I said, soldier, war against indiscipline is to bring the civilians in line with doing things orderly. And it was all over the places. And there's still, I think there's a national orientation that is supposed to carry it on. Remember, it was built on by Professor Cherry Ghana. If you're a teacher, you teach well. If you're a director, you direct well. That is how it came up. The program that MAMSA, okay, that's good to remember, yes. Flow from war against indiscipline. So if you are a trader, you trade well. If you're a driver, you drive well. That's it.
Colonel, we'll come back to you in just a moment. Let's bring in our next guest, Mr. Ismael Ahmed, who was the APC youth leader at some point under the last administration. Mr. Ismael, thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
1% and inflation rate.
Okay. First, let's begin with some form of an overview of how you are taking this news, how you because you work closely, at least in the era of former President Muhammadu Buhari as a politician. We just spoke we've been speaking to Colonel Bello Fadile, who was speaking about him as a military general, but you experienced him perhaps a lot more as a politician. And there are so many mixed reactions as to his life and time. What do you make of it?
This is a political favor.
First of all,
and to remove assistance to this one is no joke.
To the Federal Republic of Nigeria and to the
Luckily, we have.
Okay. Ismael, we'll come back to you, which seem to be having a bit of some network connection. Let's come back to you, Colonel. Maybe similar question I'd asked. Today, after 82 years, I know you experienced him as a military general and through his lifetime, but after 82 years of living on earth and serving Nigeria perhaps the better part of his life, Nigerians have different things to say about Muhammadu Buhari that just died. So when you hear some of the remarks that come through from some Nigerians, perhaps young people and people who didn't know him as a general, how do you reconcile that with a person you know?
But my response is a different stroke for different people. It's like describing an elephant, depending on where you stand. And I always like this figure of 69. Either way you turn it, it's still 69. So if you haven't been on that side, you will see it as 69. If you are not on my side, you think I'm wrong or I'm right. But depending on where you are standing. And so Nigerians are at liberty to describe the big elephant, depending if you are holding the tusk, or you are holding the leg, or you are holding the body, or you are holding the tail. That is the way I see it.
Okay, I think, thank you, Colonel. Let's come back to Mr. Ismael. Just for the purpose of record, Ismael served as the national youth leader of the APC, also a board member, and served as director in 2 campaigns in 2015 and 2019. Special assistant to the president, Muhammadu Buhari, then on special intervention. And he has been with the president since the days of the ANPP and through the CPC and now the APC. So Ismael, you know the president fairly well. So you were saying something before we had that network connection.
Yeah, I think the president would be very missed for his asceticism, for his principle in politics. And, you know, in a country where it is rare to find someone who has overcome, who God has helped to overcome the basic desires and wants of materialism and excessive wealth accumulation. He has overcome that from a pretty early age, I think. And since his military days, through to his sojourn in politics, President Muhammadu Buhari has been known for that by his colleagues and his friends, his family, and later the general public. And I think that has been his most important trait, and I think it helped him when he was governing both as a military ruler and as a civilian president. And we've seen that up close and personal when we worked with him. He never engaged in anything that has to do with materialism or personal interest of any kind. He was a simple person who just wanted to give back to a country that gave him so much. And I used to tell him all the time that he joined the army at 20 in 1962. He went to war at 25 in 1967. He became a governor at 33. He became a minister at 36. He became a head of state at 41. He became the chairman of PTF at 52. He joined politics at 60 in 2002. He became president again, civilian president at 72. And he exited as president after 8 years at exactly 80. And 2 years later, he's no longer. In a country of 200 million people, this is a rare privilege, and it came with a certain responsibility, and I thought that the president discharged it very well.
Quite a historical trail there, Mr. Ismael. And, you know, earlier I was talking about his doggedness, how he, you know, kept running for the office of president. And, you know, the history also tells us that you have been with him since his ANPP days. Talk to us about, you know, that character of late former President Muhammadu Buhari. What were the things that you observed up close about his commitment to the political process that now later saw the realization of his dream?
And I think this he has said so many times during his time as the president, his commitment to the process, to the general process of democracy. And he used to joke that he had then become a converted Democrat. And he said that what pushed him and convinced him more than anything else was the fall of the Soviet Union without firing a single bullet in the late 1980s and the early 90s. And he knew that the world has changed and has moved on from a world of strong individual leaders to becoming a world of democracy and strong institutions. And so when he ran in 2002/2003, we all believed he won that election. He allowed the process. He went all the way to the Supreme Court. And then on in 2007 and 2011 again in CPC, he believed in the process, and he took it all, even though a lot of people had skepticism whether or not the courts were independent enough to give him justice. But he believed in it, and we took it to the last call. So we've seen that in him, and he told us time and time again that this is a process that has come to stay. This is something that he believes in, and whenever you participate in it, you have to submit to the superiority of the rule of law and the process of it as well. And we've seen that several times. And as president, the question that he always asks whenever anything comes before him is, what does the law say? What does any existing law says? And that is what guides him as president when he's about to take any decision. He never took any decision, as far as I know, that contravened the law, or that he disregarded the law, or that he is the president, he could do whatever he wanted. He just wanted to be guided by the law. And I think that came through very well.
Well, Mr. Ismael Ahmed, Colonel, I'd like you to please hold up for a moment. We'll still talk about how you knew him as a leader, because for you, Mr. Ismael Ahmed, you knew him as a Democrat. But for Colonel, he knew him as a military man, a brigadier general. In fact, we'll come to some of those experiences, but we have our correspondent joining us live from Katsina State. Sadiq Ilyasu is live for us. It is 7:36 a.m., Sadiq. Speak to us about what the atmosphere is like. It's a countdown to the burial of former President Muhammadu Buhari. Speak to us. What is the mood like in the city, and what are you hearing from the people there?
Well, the mood here is very okay. As you know that the state government has already declared they have already declared a public holiday already, and since it has been declared a public holiday, a lot of shops are locked. They have not opened at all. But one important thing that is happening at the moment now is that security has been beefed up across the state, and most places, if you go around, there are security checkpoints from police to civil defense and what have you. And what we also observe is that a lot of people are still coming in for this actual to receive the body of the former president Muhammadu Buhari. As I can tell you that as we are coming to Katsina State, we met a lot of important personalities coming down to Katsina, from military chiefs to police to politicians and what have you. So a lot of people have been coming to Katsina State to make sure that they also attend to this burial procession that is going to take place. Actually, the body is expected to arrive at 12 p.m. today, and from there it will be moved down to Daura, where everything is going to take on. Back to you, Kayode.
So Sadiq, we understand that there will also be a third-day prayer that will be on Wednesday, and the activities will continue up until Friday. Typically, in line with Islamic rites, can you walk us through what we should expect, through this period of mourning, Sadiq?
Well, actually, the moment he arrived, after everything that is expected to happen at the airport, his body is expected to move to Daura. And the Islamic rites is a simple one. they will just have to take him in for the spiritual bath and what have you, and they will bring him out. Within that will just take few minutes, and they will bring him out to the maybe where they are going to perform the janaza. That's the prayer, and everybody will stand there and pray for him, and from there he will be moved to the burial ground where he is going to be buried.
All right, Sadiq, thank you so much. We'll touch base with you as soon as we have more updates because Katsina is the hub of a lot of activities right now. A lot of people coming into Katsina, heading straight to Daura, waiting for the arrival of the body of the former President Muhammadu Buhari, where he will be laid to rest, we understand, at about 2 p.m. His body is expected earlier. This is supposed to leave London this morning, so perhaps at about that time, noon or so, we should expect his body to have been in Daura, where the final rites, according to Islamic rites, will be done. But let's go back to our guest. Colonel, let's come back to you before we go back to Ismael. When you served or you were with him, in whatever capacity there were, talk to us about his personal relationship with soldiers. Okay, I understand the Colonel is not. Let's Ismael. Let's come back to you, and I wanted to find out from you, in terms of personal relationship. The reason why we're saying this is because somebody could be a father and then be a leader and be an MD. There are different shades of different individual depending on the level of relationship you have or you meet the person in terms of either reputation or personal experience. So for you, from a personal point of view, what kind of man was he indeed?
I think Buhari as a person shines through all his roles that he played, as far as I'm concerned. I think he is, what comes out more often than not is that he is too serious. Yes, he takes things very seriously, but he has and I'm sure you've heard that a lot lately, he has an incredible sense of humor. He always cracks jokes, unbelievably so, and he even cracks jokes at himself all the time. So as a person, he tries to simplify issues. When you bring, difficult issues to him, it comes down to, basic, simple issues. And I remember there was a time I was trying to describe something to him, and I kept going round and round and round. And he said to me, maybe you don't understand it very well as well. And I said, no, it's complicated. He said, well, they say that whoever cannot explain it simply, so probably don't understand it as well. So he's that kind of person. I think his persona, his personality shines through in every role. As a father, I don't know, I'm sure his children will talk more about that. But he also considered us as children, and he spoke to us like his children. As a politician, I think he was very clear, very simple, very, straightforward, straight to the point. He doesn't understand why certain things happen. In his almost sincere naivete of understanding how things work, and then he just gets confused when people are unbelievably corrupt. He doesn't get it. He doesn't understand what people are looking for, and then as a leader, it also shines through. So his asceticism, his frugality, his prudence, and like I said in the beginning, his almost disdain for material accumulation and wants of the heart, and unnecessary desires of extravagance just shines through in every role that he has found himself. And I saw that personally, and I saw that as well for him as president, as commander-in-chief.
I'd like us to talk a bit more about his leadership between the two periods that he was opportune to be leader in Nigeria as a military head of state and as a democratically elected president. Some would say that his first stint as military head of state was cut short by a coup, and hence that informed, his sort of disposition towards running for president as some form of unfinished business. What sense did you get from your close relations with him that was the case?
Well, I don't think when he decided to run in 2002, that it was out of his own volition in the beginning. I think a lot of people just felt that that was the right time for him. And by 2002, he was about to turn 60. He had been, a lot of people that supported President Buhari since he joined politics. Interestingly, were not people that knew him when he was military head of state, because they were probably very young to understand what was going on. Because most of the bulk of his support came from younger people 35 under that just believed in him because they saw in him someone who had had the privilege to be in corridors of power since 1966, and yet does not have the kind of wealth that they see being paraded around by other people who had had the same opportunity or even less. So I think that kind of endeared him to a lot of people. And I think his stint as chairman of PTF in 1994 through to 1998, and what he had been able to do with the Petroleum Task Force, just kind of endeared a lot of younger generation of that age to him and see what he would be able to achieve. That's those people that didn't know him between 1984 and 1985 when he was military head of state. And so fast forward, when he joined, he was, kind of encouraged to join politics by friends of his and people who were close associates. Most of them are dead now. But yeah, they were the ones that actually pushed him to join politics in 2002. And then from then on, he convinced himself that this is the way to go. And he was still relatively young, and he had a contribution to make. And I think that was what made him join. So it was not like, okay, I have an unfinished business to do, and then I have, even from the stories I've heard, and even from the books I have read, even in 1984, when he became, 1983, December 1983, of course, when he became head of state, it wasn't as if he decided on his own to overthrow the government. No, I think when that decision was made, he became the natural person because they believed in his integrity, even within the military cycle. So it wasn't an unfinished business. It was not a personal ambition or a personal mission to finish business. I think a lot of people saw in him what he was, for truly who he was,
right?
Which was a person of integrity, and they pushed him to join politics in 2002. That culminated, of course, being him president in 2015.
All right, so you've spoken to what you know about him as a Democrat, a politician, but let's go to Colonel now, who's still with us. Colonel, you've written your memoirs, 9 Lives. You've detailed some experiences you had. 1981, when he was Brigadier General, GOC Ibadan, you talked about a letter which you wrote and the response you got, the threats that you got, that, it's either the former president, now late, leaves the military or you leave. And then eventually when he became head of state, how you said he didn't want to see you at Dodan Barracks and you had to leave. They always say in military, it's nothing personal really, but you knew him in the military. So to provide a balance, can you walk us through those instances and maybe how you were able to get a closure with him?
Yeah, well, you see, like you said, I did not have a personal relationship with him. I had a work relationship with all the general officers commanding then as the first military lawyers in Army headquarters. That is it. It was a business, pure military business we had. And like I said, he's a disciplinarian, and he doesn't take anything for granted when it comes to discipline, whether big or small, he doesn't. And then perhaps what I can say the closest don't forget that then it was GOC, I was a staff officer in Army headquarters. Then he became head of state and my commander-in-chief. And then he left, became the president. Again, as a veteran, a retired officer, he became my commander-in-chief. And the nearest or the closest I can say about his attitude to life, even though he looks stern and disciplined, he still had that sense of humor. I recollect vividly, one of those days I drove the then NSA, Colonel Samuel Dasuki, to go and visit him, I think in El Rufai's guest house in Aso Drive. I drove, we went, we finished, he saw us out out of the house to the compound, and then the staff brought the car I drove, and they brought the car, and then he asked the then NSA, Colonel Samuel Dasuki, he said, who is driving? And he said, oh, it's Colonel Bello Fadile is driving. And then he asked him jokingly, he said, Kana di alwala kwa? And then we all laughed. That is the general for you. Even though disciplinarian, he had that sense of humor and human relationship. And his love for his people is also very, very, very clear. If he loves you, he loves you. He loves his people. And those are one of the lessons that we should take from him. Be disciplined, love for the people, love for your neighbor, social justice. We all help as a lesson we can take from him. That is my personal experience as far as the, how do I call it, the military ethics that will allow me. I cannot, as a colonel, comment or assess my superior officer, whether dead or alive. Military ethics doesn't give you that freedom. So that's how I can characterize my relationship in the workplace, and the closest, like I said, Canada, Allah, Sambo, why is Bello driving you? That is it.
You know, it's a very interesting blend between being jovial and also being a disciplinarian, and I think that's what comes across a lot from people who've had an interface with him. Colonel, we have to thank you so much, because we know that you had to stay up to have this conversation with us in spite of the time difference. We've been speaking with Colonel Babatunde Bello Fadile. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and your, the experiences you had with late former President Muhammadu Buhari. Thank you once again, sir.
Yeah, so I can conclude that may Allah, Almighty Allah, forgive him his shortcomings and grant him Al-Jannah Fatwa. Thank you very much for having me, and wish the country a better life, and may the Lord guide our leaders right. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. Just before we go to Mr. Ismael Ahmed, who, by the way, is en route, is in Kano, but heading to Dora, we have news just in for you guys.
Okay, news just in. We're expecting the body of the former President Muhammadu Buhari to depart London and heading straight to Katsina for the final journey to Dora. So we'll show you pictures of his body on board, where the president body is already on board. We understand that by 7:45 a.m., that is Nigerian time, his body is expected to depart the airport in London and head down to Nigeria. So we're tracking this entire process, every step of the way. So news just in, the body of former President Muhammadu Buhari is already on board the aircraft, and it will be heading to Nigeria from about, that should have been 7:45, so we expect it to have taken flight perhaps by now. So we're expecting his body in Nigeria soon. Let me come back to you, Mr. Ismael. Today, for his humanity, there's going to be a lot of glowing tributes to the person of Muhammadu Buhari. 82 years, you've done a great job in chronicling his public life journey from when he joined the military to when he died 2 days ago, I should say. But there are other people who are looking at him differently. from what they consider to be the dark spot. Some have said his handling of NSAS, the invasion of judges' quarters, the Naira redesign, his management of the economy that some people have said made the economy tank and has given the new leadership a big job to do. I could go on with the reasons why some people may not choose to celebrate him. So my question is, was Muhammadu Buhari, a great president from where you sit?
Muhammadu Buhari was a great man, and he was a great leader. He did his best, but like all public figures, it's always a double-edged sword. You know, it depends on what end you're holding. And there will always be people that would see for every right decision you've taken or you take, there will be somebody who will be wronged. And for every wrong decision you've taken, there will be somebody that will be righted, that will feel good about that decision because it will benefit him. But I think largely, the president, the late president, was someone who had the best intention. He just wanted to give back to a country that gave him so much. He used to say all the time that, I came from a humble beginning. If you are looking for a pedigree of who your parents are, or who your parents are, or who your father is, to be able to get to the heights that he got, he probably wouldn't have had a chance. But this country gave him an opportunity again and again and again. And all he did, he wanted to give back. Now, there will be people, of course, there are times, there are decisions that were taken, but none of those decisions that were taken were done with the malice, aforethought, or with any ill intention toward anyone. Like he said in one of the viral videos that has just been going around, and he said this during the twilight of his days as president in 2023. He basically said, I'm human, and I would have taken decision as president that would have hurt some people, some very deeply, some scathingly, but I didn't do that because I wanted to be wicked or I did that because of the available information at hand at that time, and then I want you to forgive me. So I think for a public figure, any public figure, there would always be that. But I hope that posterity and history, as time goes on, will judge Muhammad Buhari for he was a person, a simple man who had an opportunity, who discharged it and wanted to give back to the country. And for those who are hurt, one way or another, I hope that they find it in their heart to forgive him.
I know that you were very close to him, as you said, and I just want you to speak to, again, the perception that a lot of people had about him, that personally, his integrity is intact, disciplined man that sticks to time. He doesn't joke with his work, but a lot of people have said for the people around him, or at least the people he appointed either as ministers and all of that, that didn't quite flow to them. So he was almost like a man in isolation, surrounded by people who didn't quite get influenced by those traits he had in terms of integrity and the rest. Can you speak to it? Because they say, well, once he gives you a job, he says, you go and handle it. I'm not going to micromanage you. And for a lot of people, they had issues with that, saying, well, you have to sort of replicate yourself in those people. Do you find that true as well, based on your experience with him?
I know he delegates a lot. And then he delegates almost absolutely. And like you said, I don't think any president in this country can actually micromanage. It's a big country and it's a lot of bureaucracy if you're president. So people say this simply like, president should micromanage. No president can actually micromanage. And I think when you are in a position of leadership, like at one time or two, that, I've had cause, a rare opportunity to speak to him directly about, certain things about how some people are running things. He said, you get multiple information. I don't want to take a decision against someone or some group of people based on just, what somebody said, or he said, this is a country that things can be made up. So I think that he did his best. He tries to, like I said in the beginning, there is sincere naivete about an expectation of people from him. So when he believes that people who are, at a certain point in life, who have gone through certain experiences, should be able to do the right thing. I think he just had that belief. But of course, not everybody turned out to be, exactly what he wanted us to be. And, some of the things that probably he didn't like toward the end was the fact that, he didn't take a harder decision on some people that, he contemplated whether or not they did certain things. But I think by and large, he just was well-intentioned. He gave people a lot of latitude to do a lot of work so that there will be no interference.
All right, let's talk a bit more now about late former president's political philosophy. And this is important as we continue to reflect on the future of Nigeria. Perhaps you want to recall some of those things that made his political philosophy resonate with, the northern political understanding that made him command that cult-like following, which may perhaps at this point in time now have some question mark when we consider reports, of how his demise is being received in some parts of Nigeria's north, and what that also means for that vacuum that his demise may have now created in the politics of the north.
I'm not sure what the question is exactly.
About for the former president's political philosophy that made him command an almost religious following during his heydays.
Well, I think the people just came down. I said this earlier. I think, I think during his military stint and the way he went after corrupt, politicians at that time of the Second Republic, and his asceticism and his life after office, and the way he stayed just basically simple, just Muhammadu Buhari, no protocols, nothing. He was just basically himself, endeared him more to the people. And then his stint as chairman of PTF and what he has been able to do and the way he entered politics, I think they saw in him something that was close to them. He understood the language of the downtrodden. If you hear Muhammadu Buhari, and I know a lot of elites when he's campaigning, and a lot of elites don't understand, but his language, is the way he speaks to the grassroots. It's a very simple language that they understand. He thinks, and speaks to their concerns directly. And I think that was what gave him that followership in the beginning. And as time goes on, people like to see sincerity and doggedness. When he ran for that office, people believed that he won, and then he was denied, and then again and again, and he kept pushing himself forward, submitting to the process, and every time going back to the people to say, we could do this again if we just keep at it. And I think that kind of cumulatively grew in the hearts of a lot of people. And someone was just saying to me yesterday that Buhari was so loved while he was alive, and now he is probably going to be more loved even in death. A lot of people, we may have lost a lot of support after the end of the 8 years, but I think now, in hindsight and in sympathy, a lot of people just thought that, okay, there has never been a politician in this country, as far as Nigeria is concerned, that has been as popular and loved by all manner of people. And some of them can't even tell you why. They just loved him. And I think sometimes this thing just comes from God. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. But yeah, you know, he had that, yeah, you're right, a cult-like following in the North. And I remember in 2014 when we were about to go for our primaries, you know, there are a lot of people that were contesting the primaries against the president. But the question came down simply to most of the delegates and leaders of the party at that time, including the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He said, who are we going to start the race with at 50 meters ahead? Somebody who has proven over time that he has 10 million to 12 million votes of his own. All we needed to do is to add a few numbers, and we're home and square. Everybody else we're going to take is going to start the race afresh. And then we went to Lagos in December of 2014, and the delegates voted for Muhammadu Buhari. And he gave, I think, one of the most beautiful speeches I've ever heard of a politician in Nigeria. And he said, you know, I don't have dollars to give you. What I have is integrity and years of service and my experience. If that is not enough, I don't know, you hold me to it. And the delegates went out and they voted for him massively in that election in 2014, and we went to the general election in March of 2015, and we won. So what I'm saying is that, yes, there's a cult-like followership that now spread across the country in 2014, 2015, as a result of the, you know, other collaborators and partners we had. But yeah, so if you speak to different people, some people will tell you we don't know why we love him. Some will tell you based on the antecedents that he had. Some will tell you the stories that they have heard from their parents, or their friends, or his colleagues. But yeah, like you said, there will always be people that will tell you that, you know, not necessarily so we don't like him that much. And then, like I said, there are decisions that he had taken or that was taken under his administration that some people feel hurt by, and they feel that this is the time to celebrate it, which I think is very unfortunate.
What we'll do now, Mr. Ahmed, just before we let you go, just walk through some of the quotes, some of the things he said that are quite popular. And I'll start with this one about the judiciary. And this is the former president speaking in context of Nnamdi Kanu's case. You know, a lot of people have asked him time and again, when would you release Nnamdi Kanu, or had asked him then about releasing Nnamdi Kanu, let's have some sort of out-of-court settlement to this. And he said that there is one institution that I wouldn't dare interfere with, that is the judiciary. And he went on to say, let Nnamdi Kanu defend himself. But, you know, looking back now, take the former CJN, for example, Walter Onoye, how he was suspended. Well, that was what was said then, but of course he was removed. And then the man went to court about the assets declaration bit, and the court eventually said he was not guilty. There are other cases that a lot of people have raised about, you know, people being arrested in court and all of that. So when you see that statement, and then you see some of those events, a CJN being suspended, I mean, that's really unusual. And some of those events, when you weigh them, do you see contradiction here, or he still meant what he said?
No, I think he meant what he said, and I think he tried as much as possible never to interfere with the judiciary. And I don't think the suspension of the then CJN was interference with the judiciary, because you are taking the CJN now to be the judiciary, which he is not. He was an individual who, I think at that time, I don't know the facts of the case,
was the head of the judiciary.
But it doesn't mean that he is the judiciary. You see, so we have to be able to separate people from institutions in this country. You know, the judiciary he was not arrested inside the courts or anything like that. He was, I think, based on the information available at that time, I don't know the facts of the case, it was already done by the DSS. And I don't know the facts of the case, but the court has acquitted him. You know, so there are times that decisions are taken from the powers of the president that I know, any president in this country. I highly think he would be threatened by any single individual of a CJN or anyone, because at the end of the day, even if you take a case to the Supreme Court and the CJN has just one vote, if he happens to be on the panel, yes, he might have the power to constitute the panel, but he may not necessarily have the power to direct where a certain case goes to. And we all know that under democracy, hardly do you have cases, major fundamental cases go against government. That's the impression a lot of people have. The judiciary has been able to stand up for itself at some point. So I don't think the president was threatened by the CJN as a person. I think it was information available at that time. The courts have acquitted him, and I think if that's the right decision, that's the right decision. But I don't think he interfered with the judiciary in any way, shape, or form to influence anything or to get any favors or to do anything in particular. I don't think he did that. I don't think the president ever did that throughout his 8-year tenure. I don't think it's something he would support, actively. I don't think that's not him.
Ismael, the jury will still be out on that as far as the perception of his handling on some of the things that has to do with the judiciary is concerned, by just honoring his memory today and looking back and talking about some of his traits, personal traits. Do you see some of his personal traits affecting his ability to be as robust as possible as a politician? Because some have said he's aloof, or he was aloof. There are moments where things were said that happened under his administration, and he said he wasn't even aware of it as a president. I mean, very significant things, and he wasn't aware of it. So do you think that some of his personal traits of just saying, look, I give you a job, do your job, but, I just want to delegate responsibility to you, that has also cost him some level of political mileage or qualitative leadership that should have maybe given him a better outcome as a politician?
I think that's that also. There's the fact that as president, I think there's maybe with time and age and a lot of experiences, he wasn't as brash as he was when he was in his 40s or 50s, I'm sure. Time and age slows you down a little bit, allows you to give people latitude of time and an opportunity to do certain things. People are not always as loyal to an idea as one would want them to be. And I think that also his almost implicit trust in certain people and in people he has allowed to govern, and people, some of them have betrayed that trust, so to speak. I think that kind of affected some of the perception that people have.
Quotes, attributed to late former president are concerned, there's quite a lot to reflect on. One of my favorites is not particularly captured here, but is very popular, and in fact it resonated throughout the globe. The one ascribed to former late president, where he said, my wife belongs in my kitchen, in my living room, and in the other room, just imitating him. And that has a lot of, layers to it when we reflect on the implications of that. Of course, it came on the heels of the interview granted by his wife, Mrs. Buhari, where she said that, 45 out of 50 of the people in the administration of my husband are appointed by him, but he doesn't know them. Where she also talked about how she may not support his administration in the next elections. I'd like you to reflect on that, and how that sort of rang through when you consider events that trailed the end of his administration, the Naira redesign policy, where a lot of people were attributing that policy to members of the administration that had sort of an influence on the president. What are your thoughts?
First of all, it's almost impossible now. It would be absolutely nepotistic for any president to say that everyone that he is going to appoint in the federal bureaucracy under the president would have to be someone he knows directly. That's almost impossible, unless if you want to just jam-pack the whole government with your family members and friends that you know directly. So of course, it's politics. There will be people that he has appointed that he does not know personally. Naturally, they will come recommended from other key players of the party or of other people that he knows. People will come recommended. I think that's natural. It's not something that is out of the ordinary. That's number one. Number two, the issue of his wife. I think basically the message he was trying to pass there, which I think was absolutely clear, was that his family had no business running government. You know, government is for him. He was the one that was elected, and that he wanted his family to remain his family, you know, in the household, and shouldn't have any business trying to help him. They can help him, you know, with advices and everything, but they should not be seen to be actively and openly being part of government. And I think that was just simply the message he was trying to pass, that, look, you guys give me a responsibility as a president. I cannot load over my own personal family, over the nation, over the country, especially when there are no constitutional offices for that. And I think he was just being honest with himself. Of course, right. We have had a tradition in this country, in the convention, generally, you know, all over the world, really, where spouses of the president have you know, incredible influence in government. And I think the president just wanted to make sure that that's not the case in his own government.
Well, Mr. Ahmed, it's been a very productive conversation. I'm curious, though. You've worked under former President Muhammadu Buhari. Now you're working under President Bola Tinubu. I'm really curious, what is the major difference for you between both leaders, right? Do you see any difference of sorts, and what would it be in terms of their leadership style? That is, because you've worked closely. Now you are the executive chairman of a presidential initiative on compressed natural gas. So as a party person, as a person in government, what is the big difference between late President Muhammadu Buhari and President Bola Tinubu? Mr. Ahmed.
President Bola, I've always been close to President Tinubu, by the way. You know, the two of them were probably my two early political leaders. President Buhari, interestingly, introduced me to President Tinubu in 2013. And I think after our alliance collapsed in 2011, when we wanted to do an alliance between CPC and AC, and then when our alliance collapsed in 2010, going into the 2011 elections, of course, ACN went their way, CPC went our own way, because we could not agree on certain things. And I think in 2012, you know, when I went to see late President Muhammadu Buhari in Kaduna, and I was talking to him about political evangelism, and the need for him to recant his statement about not contesting again in 2015 after the 2011 election. He told me that there's a major talks that's going on here, beginning to have a conversation. And that's when he called the late Samanda Isaiah and told him to go and introduce me to Chief Tinubu. He used to call him Chief Tinubu at that time. And then Samanda Isaiah called Sunday Dari, who is now one of the spokesperson to the president. He was then, I think, the chief of staff to Ashwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And then I went to see Sunday Dari when Ashwaju came to Lagos, to Abuja. And that was my first meeting with Ashwaju in February, in early 2013, I think February. And that was when he told me that the new party, if at all, was going to be named APC. We were trying to form the youth wing of the party at that time. And then that we formed the APY of the All Progressives Youth Forum in February of that year. By June, we got. So I've always been very, very, very close to Ashwaju. He supported me to be youth leader in 2014. It was going to the Northeast, of course, because then we had Kwankwaso that had joined the party,
right,
and he wanted a different position. So the difference between the two of them, I can see, is the clear difference I can tell you for free is that President Ashwaju is a bit more hands-on than President Buhari.
Barrister Ismael Ahmed, former National Youth Leader, APC, member of the Board of Trustees, served as a director in the two campaigns of 2015-2019 for late President Buhari. He also served as senior special assistant to him 2017 to 2023, and you've been with him since 2007. They're currently the executive chairman of the PCNG. We have to thank you so much for your time on the program. I know you're headed to Dora right now, so thank you once again and wish you a safe trip.
Thank you so much.
Guys, I mean, a lot of people who know him differently, and Barrister Ismael Ahmed naturally is on that list. But let's walk through some of the other statements a lot of people remember about the late President Muhammadu Buhari.
All right, so we'll be taking you through more like a journey of some of the quotes, significant quotes during his 8-year reign as president of Nigeria. I think the next one, we've taken the one that has to do with the judiciary. And this is said at sometimes that democracy is the most accepted and best form of governance. We must all rise to protect it, nourish it, and ensure it grows to maturity. This quote was significant because coming from a military background, and for the number of years that Nigeria has been an independent nation, we've had a bigger share of that being ruled perhaps by the military. And so time and again, when there's a shaking to the foundation of our democracy, people like him that were at the vanguard of the military leadership making statements like this reassure citizens that we'll not go back to the dark days of the military, not any time, not any day.
You know, it's a very interesting transition for him, and I think that's something that is not really talked about a lot. I mean, this was a core military person, rose to the height of it. And in the military, you give the order and it is done. I mean, there are no two ways about it.
A negotiation.
When you say jump, it is how high it is. There's no, can I? No, you say, yes, sir. Sir, yes, sir. That's what you do. So he went from that to then become a Democrat, where you have to go through due process. You have to rely on the structures. There's, for lack of a better term, a lot of bureaucracy. If you want to make a decision, just a civil servant can be a clog in the wheel of that decision that even you make as a president. So he had to transition to all of that. So when people talk about him not being as hands-on, perhaps that's one of the flaws that he inherited from the military, because he gives the orders and he expects that this, my officer, would carry it out fully. But he forgets that these are no more officers. These are civilians that also have their own plans and they want to do things their own way. So it's a very interesting thing that should actually be studied, the transition from being a military person to a Democrat, the pros and the cons.
At least two of them shared that, Muhammadu Buhari and Olusegun Obasanjo. Those who have had, perhaps not some of the two gentlemen have had, for me, the biggest privileges the Nigerian state can give anybody. Lead the country as military head of state and then lead the country as civilians. Bukola, you have the next one.
Yes, indeed. You know, speaking about that transition, just before we move on to the next one, in the military, there were punishments, strict punishments, in fact, for, you know, failure to execute the order. But what we saw as a departure from former President Muhammadu Buhari was that, he, you know, it's been said that he didn't micromanage, and besides that, he left you know, members of his cabinet or even his security chiefs, you know, in office for quite some time, despite the pressure and the calls for a review, you know, during those years when Nigeria went through intense political insurgency in the Northeast. So those are some of the things that, you know, one can chew on and perhaps reflect on as the lessons of a transition from, you know, military dictatorship to democratic rule. You know, the contrast. And perhaps if we had, you know, another similar experience in the future, maybe history will beckon on a desire, a strong desire for that pattern not to be repeated. But there's more that has been ascribed to late former President Muhammadu Buhari. This one, of course, we've talked about it earlier on, but, you know, we can still reflect on it yet again. I belong to everybody and I belong to nobody. Of course, during the inauguration, he said this when he also said that the past is prologue. And this perhaps also speaks to his non-committal disposition towards his politicking. Former President Muhammadu Buhari sometimes was said to be aloof, to issues and to things. No strong attachment to political associates, so to speak. And one hardly knew, what he was thinking, what he was feeling, and he hardly responded to his critics, so to speak, when there were, controversies that trailed his administration. That was the nature of former President Muhammadu Buhari, and it brought true to this statement that he made during the inauguration in 2015. Yeah, Jeffrey, you have the next one.
I'll take this next one, and in fact, it just would take us to the next conversation which we'll have. And this one is about the economy. A lot of people have said, well, the economy was not his strongest, it was not a strength for him. Other things may be in terms of discipline, integrity, but when it comes to economy, and that's why they say Buhari will handle security or Shibajo will handle the economy. So take a look at this quote. It says, economies that grow fastest and at more sustainable rates are those that actively promote trade and attract investment. So how well was the economy faring under him? That is the next conversation we'll have.
All right, so apparently, as Fukad has alluded to, and a couple of people have seen, the economy is a big deal. In fact, two things, basically, Kayode and Bukola, that Nigerians will use to assess you: your handling of security and the economy. So those are visuals. Just before we continue with the slides and get to our guests, that's the Nigerian presidential aircraft in London. We're expecting, I guess by now, this should have been earlier pictures, but by now it should have left the airport, or about, I think we understand it's about to, but it was supposed to leave by 7:45 a.m. this morning. So whatever time it is, the most important thing is that this aircraft is heading to Nigeria, specifically to Katsina State, where it will be received. This is a state funeral, and then from there, it will head straight to Daura. So we're following through, bringing you up to speed as to the latest happenings as far as this special broadcast in honor of former President Muhammadu Buhari, who passed on about 48 hours ago.